This week on our Common Ground segment, South Carolina Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace and California Democratic Congressman Khanna. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
We're coming up to an election, and obviously a lot of times that deals with different sides pushing back and forth. You all have worked together a couple of times on bills dealing with cyber, and you all have both talked about the ability for bipartisanship to work up there. First to you.
Well, we have to work together to get things done. Representative Mace and I work together on cybersecurity. We realize that we're vulnerable to threats from China, to threats from Iran, especially with quantum computing and on cybersecurity. And so we've passed two bills together. And there are other things we can do together to bring manufacturing back, to help our economy grow.
Congresswoman?
It's amazing what you can do when you get off social media and you start talking, communicating with one another, because there is common ground. There are places where we can come together. As Ro was saying earlier, cybersecurity being one of those places. And I am a freshman, I am a conservative, but I work with Democrats, a Reagan Republican, so to speak, because it's important to deliver results for my state and my country. That's why we're here. That's our purpose.
You know, as you look at our Fox polls, extremely concerned about as you're heading to the election, inflation, higher prices. You both have talked about that issue. You come from different possible solutions.
Right. And I blame both sides for inflation. We've had deficit spending for years by Republicans and Democrats alike, ratcheted up obviously from COVID-19. At the end of the day, I think our goals are very much the same, but how we get there is sometimes the path to getting there is different. I've never voted to raise taxes. I don't want to support huge spending bills with massive deficit spending. I think that's very problematic and contributes to the inflation issues that we have right now for the long term. That's problematic.
You agree that people feel that inflation, it might be the top issue?
Yes, absolutely. Here's one of the causes of it, though. We offshore too much of our production. We don't make enough things in America. We don't make masks. We don't make enough baby formula. We don't make semiconductors. We're shipping all these things from China and then paying shipping costs. One thing we can come together is what I say is a new economic patriotism. Make things in this country. It will long-term bring down inflation.
You both have also talked about immigration and a broken border system. Congressman, you've talked about real concern about the leadership of that.
Well, it's
Expand
obviously
on that.
not working, right? I mean, the system, no one can look at the system and say it's working. One of the
You
things,
can say the border's not secure.
I can say it's not as secure as it should be. Absolutely. We need to make sure that not enough drugs are getting in, that not enough criminals are getting in, but also the system isn't working partly because we don't have comprehensive immigration reform. President George W. Bush proposed a program. He said, if you want to come here, you work, you get a permit, and then you can go back. That would help. It would help the ranchers and farmers who want to hire folks on the border, and would make sure people aren't subverting the process, and that we've passed that in the House. I would hope something like that could get done.
So I covered the White House under George W. Bush as he tried to get that done, and that word, comprehensive, seems to be a real problem up on Capitol Hill for both sides to get that massive piece of legislation through. Is there hope that even around the edges there could be some immigration something that happens on Capitol Hill?
I think so, and I actually think it's a simpler issue than that. I mean, if you look at the demand that we have for workers' visas here, particularly during tourist season, I know in my state of South Carolina, we have a huge demand because we don't have enough workers for those. So not everyone that comes here wants to be a citizen. Some just want to work for a temporary amount of time and go back home, work and pay taxes, send that money back to their country. But going back to manufacturing here in the U.S., looking at getting manufacturing out of China, incentivizing companies to come back to the United States, our regulatory policies here and make those things happen, make us go to China more than here or to the south of here. If we took some of those supply chain issues from China, went down to Mexico or Central America, South America, that also stems the tide of illegal immigration. And when there's prosperity in other economies, there's peace and there's less illegal immigration.
Now, when we talk to Democrats and Republicans or people who come from different sides of issues, we often find that there's a lot of things that they could agree on, but that because of the partisan bickering, both sides go to their corners. Is that a fair statement?
I think it's fair, Brett. Look, Nancy and I don't agree on a lot of issues, but we don't question each other's patriotism. We don't question each other's character. We agree to disagree civilly, and we look for the Venn diagram, where there's intersection and where we can make progress. And I think if you just took that approach, we'd solve more issues for the American people.
What did you make, Congressman, of the president about the pandemic is over. You heard Chad's piece. Washington Post writes, Biden is right. The pandemic is over. That doesn't mean that the coronavirus is no longer causing harm. It simply signals the end of emergency state as COVID has evolved into an endemic disease.
Well, I think the Post is right. I mean, look, the worst of it is over. We're returning more to normal life, but we have to realize that we still have a virus and we need booster shots and still need vaccines. Here's what I've said, Brett. I give the previous administration credit for partly for developing the vaccine. I give this president credit for distributing it. Why can't we just say that? I mean, why don't we look for ways that we celebrate what this country is capable of doing? We invented the vaccine. We've distributed it. We've done better than any other nation in the world. Why don't we just celebrate that as Americans?
Yeah, this might not be common ground because the president, his administration obviously used the COVID emergency to wipe out student loans in some corners just recently, a couple weeks ago, and now is asking for a lot of money up on Capitol Hill. Is that all going to come together?
Right. COVID-19, I believe, has been abused to expand government powers at the federal, state, and local level, and to just, explain away the deficit spending that we have right now. You have blue-collar workers that are paying for the college education, the Harvard Law degree, and white-collar education, and that's just wrong. And we can't afford it right now. If you look at the amount of taxes that are going to have to go up to pay for some of this legislation, the deficit spending, again, contributing to inflation. The cost of food just to go to the grocery store is far beyond and exceeded beyond the inflation figures. Every time I go to fill up at the gas station, I'm paying for a very expensive pair of basketball shoes for one of my kids, and that's how expensive it is right now. And it's something we have to address, especially looking forward after the midterms. Republicans have to have a solution.
All right, quickly, what's the next thing you guys are going to work on?
Well, hopefully it's more cybersecurity. We have so much, as Ro was saying earlier. We had 11 federal agencies that were hacked by agents of China and Russia just 2 years ago. So we are behind on securing both the federal government and private sector as well. We got to get started on that.
We need a 21st century national security strategy that recognizes AI, quantum computing, and the threats we face. Make sure America leads, and I look forward to working with Nancy on that.
Well, listen, pass the word up there about this segment. We'll have more people come down.
Thank you,
so
Brett.
much.
Thank you.